sunshine in the music, singing to the break of dawn, and breakfast with Bob. Chee-hoo.
Poncho Man, everybody! Day 5, Breakfast with Bob, brought to you by HOKA, One, Polar, Halo, Neuroscience, Velofix, Today's Plan, Normatec, Four Seasons Resort, Hualalai, Triathlete Magazine. We're here, beautiful Huggos on the rocks. Our next guest, 2012 Ironman World Champion, Leanda Cave.
Thank you.
Leanda, how are you?
Good. That title's getting further and further away now. It's really starting to show my age.
Nah. You know, so it was interesting. I was watching Siri Lindley speaking at a conference not long ago, and she told the story of 2012. And she told the story about going into that year. She had been coaching Mirinda Carfrae. Mirinda had dropped her after, you know, she didn't win in 2011. And then you and Siri connected. And she was asking around about, hey, what do you think about Leanda? To some other coaches, and they were like, oh, the bird is done. She's not going to do much anymore. And Siri and you guys connected and made magic that year. And what was it about that year? Because you ended up winning 70.3 Worlds and Ironman World Championship. That was really, really a special season.
What happened that year? I mean, I had, if I'm really honest,
Yes.
there was definitely some personal things in my life that that kind of put me in a place where I didn't have to think about anything else or anyone else but myself, and that kind of elevated me in a way where I was just training because I had nothing else to do. But also I was having fun with it, probably for the first time in a long time as well. I think we get wound up in the sport, and it's all about the wind and grind, and we just don't step back and enjoy life around the sport sometimes. And
Yes.
for me, you know, I had been doing the sport already for something like 15 years.
Right.
And I came from, I don't know if you know, I was an ITU athlete, and then I went to Ironman, and you know, I was kind of, I would say, a bit beat down mentally after being in the sport for so long already, and also missing a lot of my youth. I would say, like, not in the respect that I didn't have a youth, but I just wasn't doing the fun stuff as a normal 20-year-old coming out of college would do. And so, you know, I was kind of having a little bit of fun. I was going out here and there, and I was enjoying some trips away, and just as well as doing the sport, having I would say a life.
Right. And then leading into 2012, then it was all business again.
Yeah, like the business side of the, I'm all about training and racing and doing everything right, and when I get to the start line at any race, I was always, you know, 100% fit and ready to go, and getting to that point, I managed to train myself into really great shape. Like I said, I had nothing really else to do, and also having Siri on board at the time as well.
Probably the biggest cheerleader in the sport.
You know, there's a mental side to the sport that I think a lot of athletes overlook, and having someone with such a positive mindset, delivering positive messaging continuously, definitely at that point in time is definitely what I needed. And so that really made a huge shift for me, having some positive people around me. And yeah, I was in a good and bad place at the same time, but I think it all worked out in the end.
Well, and when we were watching the 2012 Ironman here, and you've got Caroline Steffen up the road, and you're in second, and then here comes Mirinda Carfrae running through the field, and you guys are heading out towards the energy lab, and here's Mirinda basically, you know, right with you, and all of us are thinking Mirinda's going to run past Leanda, she's going to run past Caroline, and she's going to win again. And Siri, who obviously was your partner that year, as somebody who, you know, she wanted you to win. Mirinda had dropped her, right? So she wanted, you were the person. And she says, Bird and Rinny go into the energy lab together, and on the way out, there's Bird in front of Rinny, and you threw her the fuel belt, and you were like, you got this.
Yeah, I wasn't the only one thinking exactly what everyone else was thinking. Everyone thought that Mirinda was going to get me. In fact, I thought Mirinda was going to get me much earlier on. Normally she gets me along the Leahy Drive here, and so I was just expecting her to come up on my shoulder and make the pass at some point. And, you know, when she was quite close at one point, I didn't even know she was there. And so when we were in the energy lab, I thought at that stage she was actually still catching me, but actually not. She was going the other way. I was putting time into her. But I still in my head thought she was catching me, so I never let go. I never let go of the pace, and I had Caroline there ahead of me, and I thought, okay, well, worst case, I finish second. I pass Caroline, I get second place, because Mirinda's going to catch me sooner or later before the finish line.
So you're still thinking Mirinda's coming?
Yeah, and she never did. And so, you know, I always had Caroline in my sights. I always knew I was a better runner than Caroline, so I really felt that I was going to catch her at some point. But for me, I thought I was only playing for second place that day, and there you go. I ended up winning and I had the race of my life.
And when you finish that and win it, you know, that's sort of the pinnacle of the sport.
Yeah.
When you win this race, it changes everything. How did it change things for you? Or did it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, like I said, I came into the sport into that year in a bad place, and it certainly it put me in a good place. It changed my life forever in a good way as well. You know, we take for granted sometimes what this sport can offer us as athletes. But if you put the hard work and win in a race like Kona, it does pay off for the rest of your life. And there would be a different person sitting, or probably I wouldn't be sitting here at all, maybe if I hadn't have won. So, you know, this is like 6 years ago when I won, and I'm still talking about it to this day. And I see my picture up there.
Is that a little surreal
yeah,
when you see your picture up there?
Yeah, you know, and I've gone down in the history books, and I don't think there's a lot of athletes who can say that. And I'm very proud of what I did that day, and I would have loved to have been able to do it again and do a repeat like some of the girls and guys out there. But I was a one-trick pony that day, and I'll take it.
Was it hard for you? Because obviously after you won, then Mirinda comes back with Siri. Could you have stayed and had her work with both of you, or no?
I actually did stay, but I had some pretty severe injury issues the year after I won, which, you know, from being on the top of the mountain and then all of a sudden at the bottom, I was in a very different place than Mirinda coming back into Siri. I actually embraced that whole idea of her coming back, and because it wasn't going to affect how I was performing or how I was training.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was always, I had my own mindset, and we kind of trained quite a lot separately anyway. So it wasn't like I would see Mirinda in training often, but I was a bit of a broken athlete in 2013, and in a very, like I said, different place to Mirinda. So whether she came back or not wouldn't have made the difference to me.
And you'd had a pretty long career at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely the highlight of my life and my career that year, and I tried to come back, and for many other reasons, I just couldn't. My body couldn't back up after getting injured in 2013. And in fact, I would say in 2015 I came here in probably the best shape of my life, and then I crashed and I couldn't finish. So, you know, when you realize I've been here. I've raced here 11 times. And I've had 2 decent races, so that's pretty bad, pretty bad stats. So, and some athletes never get it, you know.
No.
So honestly, like 2 times out of 11, that's for me. I'm walking away pretty happy about it.
Love it. How about a round of applause for Leanda Cave? Leanda, thanks so much for coming by.
Oh, we got sunshine in the music, singing to the break of dawn. Breakfast with Bob.